Digital Engineering Award in association with ISG L&T Technology Services, CNBC TV18.
Hello and a warm welcome to this very special discussion along the sidelines of the Digital Engineering Awards, presented to you by L&T Technology Services, ISG and CNBC TV18. My name is Jude Sanath, and with me is a galaxy of industry leaders whose brains I'm about to pick on a cross-section of topics including sustainability, digital engineering, R&D, and of course Gen AI and beyond. But before I get any further, let me introduce to you my panel today. On my extreme left is Dr. Luiz Fernando Huet de Bacellar, Vice President of Engineering and Technology at Eaton. Great to have you with us, Dr. Luiz. We also have Rahul Goyal, Vice President at Intel. Rahul, good of you to join us. Amit Chada is CEO and MD of L&T Technology Services. Amit, great to have you with us here today. And we have Stephen Hall, last but not the least, President of ISG. Steve, pleasure speaking to you. Pleasure. Before I get any further, let me start with the two CEOs on my right, Amit and Steve. There's always this macroeconomic climate that we have, given the context of these times that we live in. And given the macroeconomic climate of today, do tell me, from a business perspective, keeping technology aside, what are the 2 or 3 significant challenges and opportunities that you see for yourselves? And what kind of a role does it play in terms of solving them to unlock potential for growth? Let me start with you, Steve, before I come to Amit.
Sure. I think we've got a couple challenges broadly. We're probably in the most talked about recession, non-recession that we've had. So the media has talked about this over and over and over, which has put a lot of damper on corporate spend. So when you have this much damper on corporate spend, consumer spend is holding up, the labor markets are holding up. We're in this period where anything discretionary that organizations want to do, they don't know how to move forward because there's concerns in the market. The underlying fundamentals are solid. This year we saw the biggest change in outsourcing and managed services deals in years. We'll do 40 billion of ACV in that space with engineering climbing. So you got this good fundamental market, but you've got this overall concern being talked about, and it's just, we got to get through this period. Feds are doing it, Bank of England, I think everybody kind of is going to hold rates steady, I believe in Q1, but we'll have to see how that comes through.
Right, so there are challenges, no doubt, Amit, but there are opportunities as well. And one of these, like Steve mentioned, was the outsourcing deals. Do you subscribe, and are there more opportunities than challenges at this time and place with regard to the world economy?
Sure, so I see 3 opportunities and challenges, right, if you see it. One, there's this whole thing about shifting demographics, shifting skill sets, changing skill sets that is out there, that is getting fueled by some of this outsourcing that he's talking about, Steve is talking about. Some of this is being by the changing dynamics and I know you said don't talk about technology, but changing technology. So that's number one, right? Also, the new workforce that is coming in actually needs a lot more than just a 9 to 5. They're looking for a purpose, right? So that's one. The second thing that we're seeing is an energy transition. Clearly, and you can look at it, you can look at the EV vehicles, you can look at it at different kind of power generation activities going on, and I can go on, but that's the second change that we are seeing in the world that's creating huge opportunity for companies like ourselves as well as our clients.
Right.
The third is the pace of change. Never before has a decade provided so much of change as opposed to what we've been seeing right now. So I do see all 3 of these as being extremely important, having far-reaching consequences, and said the one thing that we can do to be able to deal with this is to be agile, right? Agile in thought, agile in purpose, agile in action, and I think there's a huge opportunity out there. And I actually also subscribe to Steve's point. We have talked ourselves into a recession, which is not a recession.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think this it's very vibrant. Look at the airports, look at hotels, look, right? Look at highways. It's all you can see is people out there doing a lot more. So I do think that we're heading into some very interesting times as long as we're agile.
Right, and I agree with you, consumption is probably hitting one new high after another, but the fact remains that we are in the midst of perhaps the most eventful decade since the 60s, which to my recollection, at least I wasn't born then, but was the last most eventful decade. But Dr. Luiz, let me come to you. Congratulations firstly on winning the award for Distinguished Engineer of the Year.
Yes.
Given your expertise in power management systems and technologies, I was wondering if you could share some insight on these macroeconomic factors that we're dealing with and what kind of a role it can have when it comes to product development or services in your field. Is there a link, and what is that going to be?
There's clear link there. I want to start from where Amit was touching on, specifically on energy transition, which is an area that it's important and critical for Eaton. And if you, the overarching factor there is the climate impact, and that's what's driving energy transition and sustainable products. And that's the key, in my mind, that's the key aspect that we all gonna have to be focused in how and we develop sustainable solutions for the world in general. How I mean, specifically talking about my company, how Eaton offers sustainable solutions and enables the customers, our customers, overall the world in creating more sustainable solutions. I think this is what's gonna guide us in 2024 and beyond.
So there's a sustained focus on sustainability, you'd say, while developing products, and that's here to
That's the main area. That's where we're focused. How we make our products more sustainable, how we reduce emissions on what we provide to our customers, how we create products, how we innovate in developing products that enable our customers to create on their side sustainable solutions.
Right.
So this goes across all the different segments. It can be healthcare, it can be industrial segment, it can be oil and gas, anywhere. Even if you talk about oil and gas, you still need to focus on how you're gonna create sustainable solutions in that space, because it's not gonna disappear overnight. Obviously, we're still gonna be dependent on that. But we need to continue to drive solutions that enable us to be more sustainable.
And I completely agree with you, Dr. Luiz. Sustainability is a big talking point and something that, you know, several emerging economies, for instance, look to actually go about doing, despite the fact that they may actually be a few paces back. But sustainability is no doubt a global priority for most economies, for most companies. And that brings me to you, Rahul. You know, Intel has been leading pivotal transformations insofar as a myriad of market applications are concerned. But when it comes to R&D and reshaping the kind of technology that you look at when it comes to, you know, chips, how has Intel gone about realigning itself or moving with the times, really, when it comes to the transformations that we're seeing as far as the chip industry is concerned?
Yeah, great. So I think a couple of things come to mind. One, I think that we are the keepers of the Moore's law. We call ourselves the stewards of Moore's law. So we want to bring in as much technological innovation as much as possible on both silicon and package. We are seeing that. We are transforming our R&D in addition to doing that. We have this thing called IDM 2.0, which essentially makes, we are trying to do the second generation or second rev of this integrated device manufacture. What that means is that we want to do manufacturing at scale, we want to have product leadership, and we want to set up a new business like our foundry services business, which is new, and actually I'm part of that as well, which is to really offer these, you know, compelling capabilities to the customers. Right? And we want to do that with our open ecosystems and our ecosystem partners that we are taking along. And we fundamentally believe in that. And we want to be a responsible citizen, to Dr. Luiz's point earlier, on sustainable solutions and products. So I think we are trying to do all of that as a responsible company, which wants to lead and get back to that, you know, the days that we were the leaders in the industry.
Right, and no doubt, given the brand value that precedes a company like yours, I'm sure that is something that, although it's a challenge, poses a whole lot of opportunities for you, especially, you know, given the fact that it's happening at the most contextual time.
It is, and I think the pace of change what Amit talked about, I think is really driving that. I think if you look at the AI everywhere right now, we actually have an initiative in the company on AI everywhere, which means we are doing things on our products, in our methodologies, in our systems, as well as working with our partners to incorporate those. So yeah,
and I'm glad you bring up AI, because I was going to ask you, Amit, given all the focus that we're seeing on generative AI and all the headlines that it's been making, one launch after another. We're debating policy approaches as well to it. Given all this focus, and given that it's perhaps the most advancing and most talked about sector today, how much of generative AI really weighs down on you and influences you when it comes to helping a client's product development roadmap? Is it a factor? And if yes, to what extent?
So these are early days, right? We started with AI ML, went to AI, and now everybody is talking about Gen AI. If we look at Gen AI, we've actually developed our point of view that it's got actually 4 layers. So there's the SoC layer, which is system on a chip layer, which is what Rahul and his team and his company and other semiconductor companies do. Then there's the embedded layer, which actually the semiconductor companies again are bringing up, because they're not just staying at the chip layer, they're bringing the embedded layer. Then you've got the software layer, and then you've got the data layer. So there are 4 layers there. What we did was, an engineering company, we actually flagged off proof of concepts in manufacturing for the shop floor, for product development in medical, for inspection, for testing. So there's about 42 different POCs that we are running at this stage in the company. One just case point of what we have seen come out. So for a particular testing of a product, we used to take about 1,700 hours for an ultrasound monitor to test it. With Gen AI, we've been able to test it in 176 hours. So it's 1/10 of the time.
That's
right?
massive progress.
And similar reliability in terms of results. There's another case where we have taken X-rays and about 99.5% accuracy, and we have now done about 1 million data sets. We're able to come out with what kind of symptoms come out from that X-ray, which is a factor of, how the X-ray looks like, the chest X-rays look like. And I can go on and on. But I do believe there are 3 things that Gen AI will bring out, because there's been a lot of talk about jobs being lost, etc. I actually would say it the other way around. With Gen AI coming along, there's a lot more that will be done and can be done that was not possible 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Number 2, it does create a very new kind of workforce, where the workforce will have to be upskilled to pick up the next level of work rather than mundane tasks that could be normally done.
Right.
And third is that I do believe that it will create a kind of an affordability factor for economies that are not doing too well to be able to come up quickly.
Absolutely.
I take case in point of how the Indian economy has leaped in the last 10 years. And the only thing that you see when you go to India is cranes, crane booms, and you see a lot more construction going on. You go to other places, you see the same. The only reason you're seeing all that is that there is the leveraging technology to go a step ahead. And I believe that Gen AI will create that as we move along.
All right. So you're seeing so many opportunities, and the right case study being India in terms of how it has operationalized and leveraged the power of Gen AI. And in fact, that brings me to you, Steve. Given the fact that there's so many opportunities, like Amit was mentioning, do you foresee any challenges when it comes to going about implementing these concepts? And on that front, if there are challenges, what's the route to overcoming them?
So November 30th, 2022, completely democratized AI, unleashed it. We've had AI, we've had ML. It's actually been a deep secret for 30 to 40 years, but it was a small group that really understood it. And the language was so difficult to understand that nobody got it. So in 2013, when really the neural networks were launched and really started seeing deep analysis there, there became this excitement. But nobody still had been able to bring it to the markets the way OpenAI had. That unleashed so much that what we refer to internally as sort of the Cambrian explosion of AI. Again, to your point, just unbelievable opportunities.
Right.
I think there are challenges. There's going to be challenges on the implementation side, but we're less than a year into this experiment.
What kind of challenges, if I may interrupt you there for a
So the challenges, first of all, are you're going to have the ethical challenges.
Right.
Everybody's going to be concerned about the data sets. And do the data sets represent all the business components, all the demography that they want to really represent? So you're going to have that. You're going to have different people come down with productivity improvements and assume that productivity improvements means less resources, less FTEs, less pricing. I tend to agree. I think it lifts all the boats, quite frankly. I think there's so many problems in the world to be solved that Gen AI is going to help us solve, that it's going to move us forward as we go forward. But those challenges are going to have to be addressed.
Right.
There's going to be regulatory issues. The banks are concerned. The governments are deeply concerned. EU is already having lots of debates about the ethical use of AI and what it means. We're going to have to work through that, but I think the forward momentum is such that there's so many problems that can be solved, even outside of that realm, that it absolutely makes it fun. Now, it's also great drama when you watch Sam Altman and everything that's happening in the Valley. And
It's been an eventful few weeks, hasn't it?
It's been a fun few weeks,
Yeah.
but again, it's unleashed just a torrent of new ideas that I don't think we've seen, and we're all from the same generation. This wasn't even what the internet brought. It took the internet sort of 7, 8 years to get to the point what Gen AI was able to do in 3 months.
Yeah, how quickly it was pervasive across the whole world in different segments and different
No doubt.
areas.
Yeah, we're seeing all of this happen at a much quicker pace, and it's a sign that we're moving faster through these times, even as one innovation precedes the other. And in fact, that brings me to you, Dr. Luiz. You know, even as we talk about Gen AI and all of its capabilities, no discussion is complete without talk of people and culture in an organization. When you talk about the machines, I guess that only throws a lot more emphasis on the people behind them. So in this time and place, at least as far as your organization is concerned, what are some of the methods, approaches, and strategies you adopt to foster a culture of innovation? Like one of these gentlemen was saying, more than loss of jobs, there's also the talk about upskilling, especially in this era of AI itself. So does the focus clearly lie on innovation? And is the route to getting there a cultural route? And what's that been like as far as your organization is concerned?
Yeah, I think, yes, the answer is innovation is key, whatever you define innovation, because it's an interesting word. Everything that's new to me is an innovation. Even an improvement project or product is an innovation. But I think it's a combination of several things. Culturally and diversity, it's a combination of us engaging with different, we have different programs that engage with academia and universities. We try to tap into emerging technologies and how these apply to the products or the problems we need to solve, the solutions we need to solve. One key aspect that we promote, the diversity aspect, I think this is fundamental, is bringing people from different cultures across the world. We have centers we're a global company, we have thousands of engineers all over the place, in India, in China, in Brazil, in the US. And we value that, the different aspects that these cultures bring, the different thoughts, the different problems that they have in different countries, and the mindset that comes with those engineers that join our company. These are critical for us to continue to innovate. And some of the great drive that exists in our company is to bring more women into the engineering area. So that's definitely, because it brings a completely different perspective, to be honest with you. And so bringing all this together, the diversity, the minorities, the different cultures globally, that's what creates innovative products for us. Innovation to me is how you solve a problem that exists that improves the quality of life, improves humanity. That's kind of my definition of innovation. And bringing these different cultures together and different workforces, and it's critical for us to continue to drive innovation.
So, diversity, of course, Rahul, like Dr. Luiz was mentioning, is one approach, both gender, geographic. Are there any approaches at Intel that you subscribe to foster the culture of innovation?
Fearless innovation, believe it or not, is one of the Intel values, and it's on our badge,
right?
On everybody's badge, of 125,000 people or whatever the number is these days, right? So, and it's been there in the company for a long time. So I would say it's in our DNA, and partly how we do is we encourage risk-taking and fail-fast approaches, which essentially means that you can experiment, but you got to figure out whether it works or not. And then if experiments which are very longer term, right, because our pace of innovation now we're talking about how it's increased, but some of these things take a lot of time because you have to develop new materials. You try to complete the periodic table, right, and look at all the materials and what they can do for us in terms of the silicon economy that we see with the growth becoming for the digital side. we're looking at packaging techniques, we're looking at transistors, we're looking at software techniques. And so we need people for that, of course. We have a global organization, but we also need to enable them with the right tools, with the right methodologies, with the right systems to do the right things, right? So we are focused on that from a fearless innovation standpoint. And in addition, we have goals in terms of our culture and diversity to make sure that we are getting as many diverse opinions as possible, right, from a people standpoint to go solve those tough problems that we have to solve.
But Rahul, while fostering innovation is one point of discussion, when it comes to upskilling as well, there are lots of nuances that are at play here, including whether there is a skill gap that needs to be filled. If yes, how big it is, and more importantly, what are some of the strategies that you adopt when it comes to determining what this gap is and how you go about filling it subsequently?
Right.
Do you have any suggestions or approaches in terms of upskilling, even as you counter the whole innovation argument when it comes to upskilling? What's the approach?
That's a good question, and I think we are learning, right, collectively, because as you said, the pace of innovation is increasing, so we have to learn how to be more agile with that pace of innovation. But one of the things that worked with us, which is working quite well, is what we have established in the last 4 years and make it more of an industrial scale now, which are called centers of excellence.
Okay.
So we have determined maybe top 8 or 10 areas that we believe that we can outsource for, where there's good talent out there, whether it's in India or other locations, right? And we are working with the Eastern European companies, we are working with Indian companies, we are working with all over the globe. And as we determine that, we are actually training people. And we have training programs with the get certified, working with partners in the ecosystem to train the people and putting the people through the training so they get certified and we get trained talent back. So we are actually up-leveling the skills of those people with our ecosystem partners who can be useful to us as well as maybe in the future, right? Useful as we drive the transformation. So that's one technique.
Sure. I love this idea. One of the things that we saw, and as a group, engineers, IT professionals in general, we're pretty skeptic. Yeah. And we don't really jump on hype curves the way that others do. So we went out, we asked a few questions to 250 CIOs, head of product engineering. And the question was essentially, why do you want Gen AI and what do you want to get out of it? What I was amazed by the response is 76% of the CIOs and head of engineering said that it exceeded or far exceeded their expectations. Now again, this is just a couple hundred days in. The big example that they gave was the productivity improvement and the fact that we could take a fresher that's sitting in India, that's just learning to code, connect them with Copilot, and all of a sudden make that individual feel valued and needed and part of the team. It wasn't anymore that I was a fresher, I'm a contributing member. And when you get that, you get pretty inspired.
No doubt.
And inspired engineers are great engineers. And so you got this circular thing that you're creating because of the use of technology. And I think you both are saying something so similar on how it's really resonating with the entire organization, this one technology that's making us all better in so many different ways.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, Steve, because I was going to quickly pivot onto product development as my next talking point. And given that we're talking about efficiencies here, I have to ask you, Dr. Luiz, the last 3 years have been monumental and eventful in terms of all that's happened, both on the health front, on the geopolitical front. It's been 3 years of so much change. Has that had an impact on product development? And what kind of a change have you seen 3 years now versus the time before? And what kind of an impact on product development have you seen in geographies, let's say US and EU versus countries like India or Japan, or let's say advanced economies versus emerging economies? Has there been a change in the last 3 years, and has there been a change across these countries?
Yeah, I think the fundamental change is agility. Okay, what has happened in the past 3 years, and this is actually building from prior years even, is the need to be nimble, to deliver solutions quickly to the market. There is always a need to be faster, and at the same time focus on what is the real value that is being created to the end user, to the customer, and make sure that we are not missing that part, right? So you just be fast and deliver something that doesn't deliver what is expected. It doesn't help, obviously. So you need to be fast, and at the same time you need to continue to focus on distilling exactly what's the real needs from that customer. Sometimes they are articulated needs, sometimes there's non-articulated needs. But you need to continuously, as you develop the product, in a fast way. You need to continuously check, making sure that you are building on something that is actually creating value.
All right.
So this is, to me, and all these different tools and AI and everything, this is all helping, accelerating this process. And that's the main change that and I believe, tapping into different areas. Just one example, talking about centers of excellence, and we focus on developing partnerships and attracting young talents from schools and from academia. We have several programs in co-ops and interns that we bring to the company to learn what we do and help them understand what we do, and at the same time getting their point of view, their perspective on that. That feeds and fuels the whole process. So this to us, and we focus on, I lead several centers of excellence in different areas of the world. We focus on some specific areas that it can be Western Europe, it can be South America, it can be India, it can be China. We focus on tapping on what is the best that can be gotten from these areas. So this is, in general, it's a combination of several things that is just driving speed. And we're gonna have to continue to be more efficient and deliver solutions that are reliable, safe, and useful. Create value to our customers.
Rahul, do you see emerging economies delivering on this agility and nimbleness better than established ones? Or is it pretty much status quo in terms of advanced economies doing so much better in terms of becoming more nimble and agile?
I think traditionally we have seen the established economies as more going and solving innovative problems and complex problems, and emerging economies as more cost, kind of we are going there for cost reasons. But I see the world changing right around us, and I see that going towards more regionalization, right? Which basically means that as we look into this more regulated environment that we are getting into, as we look at the turbulent geopolitical situation, I think that's going to drive a lot more of how we are approaching things, because there are restrictions now of where the technology can flow. It's not, we cannot easily flow the latest and greatest technologies to all parts of the world, like what we used to. So I think that's kind of, by definition, redefining some of the markets and how we approach them. And I think it will be very important for us to continue to collaborate, both private-public partnerships to make sure that the governments are informed and making right calls, and the private enterprises are able to then respond accordingly. And there's the collaboration that comes with it. So I think there is this transition now happening right now, that the company's strategies have to kind of withstand the turbulent geopolitical environment.
Yes, Dr. Luiz.
I think just one point about, I completely agree with everything you said, but emerging countries bring a different perspective, and that's critical, right? One thing, they don't have several of the legacy issues that some of the developed countries have. They are kind of more open-minded. They have different types of needs because they are growing within a world that is quite different than when the developed countries start their growth.
They don't quite have that baggage.
They don't have the baggage. And they bring a completely different perspective and different types of problems, but they are eager. The fastness, the need for solutions is there. So that's the nice thing about interacting.
And I guess that's why so many are betting on a country like India, which is all set to hit a whole new level in terms of innovation, agility, and nimbleness from their stables. Well, on that note, gentlemen, it was great speaking to you all in terms of what lies ahead in terms of technology. But before we end, we have one segment that's bound to get some quick responses from each of you. This is our rapid fire round.
All right.
1 or 2 words only. You can't take too long to think, all right? We're going to start with Steve, and we're going to end with Dr. Luiz. I have, I think, 4 questions for each of you.
Okay.
So, Steve, let me begin with you. 2024 will be a year of what?
AI.
Amit?
AI.
AI.
Innovation.
Innovation.
Sustainable solutions.
Sustainable solutions. AI, innovation, and sustainable solutions. That's pretty much the consensus. Moving on. Digital engineering is here to solve.
World problems.
Amit?
Humanity and human problems.
Human problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Rahul?
Complex problems.
Okay. Dr. Luiz.
Yeah, develop technology to solve complex problems.
Complex problems. All right. One characteristic, Steve, that defines or describes an engineer at heart.
Easy. Inquisitive.
Okay.
Precision and passion.
All right.
Curiosity.
Okay.
Oh, curiosity. I couldn't
Curiosity.
agree more.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think the jury is out. Curiosity and inquisitiveness it
Yes.
is. All right, last one. One word that comes to your mind when you think about the Digital Engineering Awards.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. I think you couldn't have said it better, Amit.
Celebrating success of engineers.
That's 3 words. Okay, all right, I'll give it to you. Celebrating success of engineers.
Excellence.
Excellence.
Promoting engineering excellence.
Promoting engineering excellence. Well, on that note, I think the jury is out. There's a whole lot of optimism and positivity that lies ahead when it comes to digital engineering, generative AI, and the future of technology itself. But more importantly, there's a whole ocean of challenges and opportunities left to conquer. We hope you enjoyed this segment. Keep watching CNBC TV18.
Digital Engineering Award in association with ISG L&T Technology Services, CNBC TV18.